All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope everyone had a great Father's Day weekend. I know that you guys are celebrating. I know one person was really celebrating with some nice food.
Mm.
Mr. Wong posted on
Oh
our
yes.
Telegram group. Mr.
Oh
Wong, what was
yeah.
that you posted on Telegram? What was that?
Well, it's called panchada.
It's
Panchada.
okay. Man,
Yeah.
that thing looks so tasty. I wanted to just grab it through the screen. I'm not even kidding.
It was very good. Mr. Gao had a sandwich. I mean, we roast it. Make the skin crispy.
Yeah.
Uh, and eat it on a flatbread. So flatbread.
Yeah, I could tell the skin was nice and crispy. You can tell just from looking at it.
Oh
Yeah, that
yeah.
thing looks so delicious, man. Great. So you guys had a good Father's Day weekend, Mr. Gao?
Awesome,
I saw
awesome.
the gift that you got, Mr. Gao. It was awesome, man.
Yes,
I love that T-shirt, by the way.
I yes, I got a warning on Bitcoin. I might spontaneously talk about Bitcoin.
That is so appropriate. That's a perfect shirt for you.
The funny thing is, my son asked me right before he got me that shirt. Right, he said, I wear this shirt a lot. I have tons of these Weebit T-shirt at home. So he said, Dad, why do you wear that shirt a lot? I said, well, I go to the office and that's what I wear all the time. It's like, oh, okay. And the next day he got me a shirt
Really?
about the Bitcoin. I should have known.
That was awesome. That
but,
was a beautiful
but it was
gift.
great. We just a barbecue. Jason's
Nice.
family and my family. We live in the same development, so we were just in our backyard doing a barbecue. That was awesome, and the kids were playing.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. So I hope you guys out there had a great Father's Day weekend as well. And it's Monday, so you know how it is on Monday. We try to hit the ground running. A lot to share with you guys today. A lot of information. So you guys strap yourself in and get ready for a really good conversation. And we're going to start it off with the mining difficulties. We get these questions asked a lot, and so we have to always constantly talk about this topic. That sometimes when the mining difficulty goes up, we mine a little bit less Bitcoin, and when the mining difficulty goes down, we mine a little bit more Bitcoin. So the mining difficulty has been adjusted again, which means that we may mine a little less Bitcoin, but no worries. These things get adjusted every couple of weeks. So we had a great article that we want to share with you guys. Mr. Guy, what do you think about this
Mhm.
article, mining difficulties?
Actually, it's very interesting, and we talked about this a lot. Well, obviously, we have to talk about it a lot because that's what we do. We were Bitcoin miners, right? So at the last two times we talked about doing the last two adjustments, it actually went down. And I think I predicted it would go down again because as you know, before the first adjustment, we were talking about there were over 30% of machines, the mining machines, they were using the old machines, the S9,
S9s, yeah.
right? So over 30% of them. So I was assuming that with the adjustment at the happen, it would be maybe a reduction in difficulty about roughly about 30%. And we keep the price around here, around 9 to 10. That's what we were predicting. The price stays roughly about the same, below 10,000, but the difficulty went up. And what I think it went up, what it means is, I read some articles of what it means, and actually we have that sense too. I think we have the same sense of feeling that why it's starting to the difficulties go up is the miners like us, they are actually very bullish, and a lot of people are bullish, right? And the miners they're willing to take less profit and get more into it and spend a lot more money into the infrastructure, into building these machines for the long term. So a lot of these people are coming in, and that's why you see an increase. And it's actually, yes, we get a little, we mining less, we're all mining less, but it is a bullish sign. It is a good sign for us that eventually you will see, right? We've been talking about the breakthrough. We've been talking about the prices of Bitcoin, which we'll get into in a little bit, right? About what we're going to see and think about the price, right? What are your thoughts on it, Jason?
Well, it's funny. Right before the show, we were talking about in southern part of China, because we are in the rainy season, so a lot of facilities take advantage of the cheap hydropower that is available in province like Sichuan province which accounts for approximately 9.5% of the total hash power around the world for Bitcoin for the entire Bitcoin network. So that certainly has a lot to do with it. This is also what we see on a yearly, over yearly basis. It's like this, seasonal spike because of the cheap electricity. So a lot of mining companies flop over there to take advantage of it. But the thing is, it's only a seasonal thing because the rainy season lasts for about 3-4 months at the most. And then the electricity is going to, price is going to go back up because there's essentially no water flowing through these rivers, so they can't take advantage of it. So that I also believe it would have something to do with the spike because more mining machines are joining the networks due to the cheap electricity.
I think this price, because the Bitcoin has been pretty much in this range for a while, and it's a good price for miners because a lot of miners, they're not set up like us where we mine and it goes to our members. A lot of miners, when they mine, they sell it into the market. And so this price is a steady price to keep a lot of these miners online. It's not low to the point where miners need to start, shutting down their mining rigs and so forth. Some have already, but with this price where it's 93, 95, even 10,000 every now and then and dip back, it's a price where it's sustainable for most miners to stay online and keep mining. So we're going to see these spikes. Now if the price drops, below 9 or in an 8,000 range, then we're going to see some miners getting offline. But right now with these prices, it's a good price to keep miners online.
Right, that's for sure. And like I said, we do see that this price kind of like will stay in this range. Actually, it's funny. We'll talk about it in a little bit when we get to that article. They were saying probably around July. One article says in probably around July they'll see a breakthrough in price going above the 10, right, and maybe hit a new record soon.
Yeah.
All right.
I believe that. I think once we see the price breaks above like 10,500 and stay above there, I think then that's a really strong sign that we are really into the bull market. And I know everyone is waiting for that. But when the price, the thing is, when the price is consolidating this long, then once the bull market comes, then it's going to be a very strong bull market because the longer the price consolidate, it's like pressing down on a spring, right? And then when you release it, the harder you press on the spring, when you release it, the higher it goes, right? It's something like holding a beach ball under water, right? When you hold a beach ball under water, the deeper you try to hold it, when you finally let it go, the higher it shoots up. The price is the same way. The longer the price compresses, right? Like the longer the price consolidate, then when the price finally breaks out, then the bull market is a lot stronger.
All right. And James, if you can pull up actually a couple articles. One, let's talk about the $50,000 next stop from Forbes article first. If you can pull that up. All right. We always talked about the prediction of the Bitcoin price and where do these numbers come from, right? Why are they talking about that? All right. In this article, this one it's a little more conservative, which actually maybe not. They're thinking about 50,000.
Imagine we're so spoiled. We think 50,000 is conservative.
Right. This is saying that Bitcoin will hit 50,000 during the next all-time high, which a lot of people are predicting next year, right? And why they see that, it's a couple of things why they think it's going to hit that. It's one is they see a lot of these traders, actually a lot of these more professional traders, they're holding on to the Bitcoin, right? Professional traders and also miners, there are more of them, they're holding on to the Bitcoin, right? Whereas actually 85% of the Bitcoin out there are usually held by these professional traders or people that are holding on to the Bitcoin. Right? Whereas the other 15%, is by made up of retail traders, right? Retail traders or the ones that trying to do day trading and trying to make a little money here and there, just buy and sell fairly quickly. But those people that actually have only 15% of the Bitcoin that are used by these retail traders, they actually make up over 90% of the transactions. Right, so which means those are the guys that are
in and out, yeah.
Right. Okay. So what that means is people see it for the long term. Right, people will have a very bullish view on Bitcoin. The ones that are holding on to it. And the last time that it happened, was back in 2017, right before it hit the all-time high of above $20,000, right? So what they see is what this article says is when that happened, when a majority of the people are holding on to the Bitcoin, right? At this rate right now, about 85% of the people they're holding on for long term, right? The last time it happened like this, with this high of a percentage of people holding on to it, in the next 4 months, that's when it hit the all-time high, right? I think back in 2017, it probably reached that high around November, I believe, November, December, right?
Yeah, right around December, because I remember it so vividly because the excitement, and I remember I went home with my family for Thanksgiving, and I saw everyone was talking about was Bitcoin, and then a few weeks after Thanksgiving, it just took off like a rocket.
Right.
But to your point, one of the things that's also happening, like I mentioned earlier, is that right now, a lot of miners are holding on to the Bitcoin that they're mining because they're waiting for that bull run. So, in their eyes, why should we sell now when we know there's a bull run around the corner? Let's hold on to what we have, and then when a bull run comes, so that's also another area where people are holding on to the Bitcoin that they have.
Right. So all these reports and all these indications actually are really coming from all directions that pointing to the rise of Bitcoin, right? To where we're gonna go, right?
And just to add one more thing to that, one of the things I like about this particular article you're talking about is that it's coming from it's coming from Forbes magazine, right? And we all know that you can't get any more mainstream than Forbes magazine. And when Forbes magazine is now telling us that based on their analysis, they actually see Bitcoin hitting 100,000 by the end of next year, which what we have been talking about enough for the past couple of months, right? That we see Bitcoin really hitting, in the $100,000 range by the end of next year. And now Forbes are saying that. So that when even the mainstream guys are now on board, because the point is that right now you can't deny reality, right? And the reality is based on what Bitcoin is and based on what's going on right now in our economy and our monetary system, then the reality is staring you dead in the face that Bitcoin is going to really do some excitement in this couple of years or so.
Yeah, guys. I mean, what's very interesting. I know Jim pointed out is 96% all the transactions are falls into those retail investors. Retail investors, even on the equity market, traditional equity market, never accounts for a large percentage of the total volume. Generally, it all belongs to those institutional buyers, right? So it is a good sign, in my personal opinion, that there are more institutional investors that are coming into the space and they're holding on to it. I want to get your opinion. Can we look at this as a simple supply and demand, right? If more buyers coming in are holding on to the Bitcoins and not selling it, so in order for the next guys to buy a Bitcoin, he or she is going to have to pay a higher price because there's just not as many in circulations. Right. So I think it's all indications are indicating that we are going to be heading into the next all-time high. So.
Right. Yeah. And even there's an article that we have coming up, and we can actually go to that one right now. James, the article that we have that talks about Bitcoin whales are pulling their Bitcoin off of the exchanges. And that's another indication, because a lot of these whales, when you have your Bitcoin on an exchange like a Coinbase or Binance or Gemini in one of those exchanges, they have security in place, but a lot of times, and Coinbase is notorious for this, every time the Bitcoin price start going up, they always have problems. The exchange shuts down. You can't access it. So a lot of whales right now, they really are feeling that we're about to hit a really serious bull run. And so now they're protecting themselves. They want to take possession of their Bitcoin and not have it exposed to the exchange so much, because, let's say the price goes to, 50,000, 40,000, 50,000, and they want to take some profit, and they can access it because Coinbase is shut down, right? So now what they're doing is they are taking their Bitcoin off the exchanges, so the Bitcoin can be in their possession. So, in case when the Bitcoin goes up, in case these exchanges have problems, it won't affect their Bitcoin.
Right, and that's exactly why people are taking out from those exchanges. I actually, I have some friends, and we probably read some stories about how people lost their Bitcoin from these exchanges. People getting their accounts hacked, right, by hackers. And it actually happened to me over the weekend that I thought I got hacked. My phone, I remember Saturday, my phone.
Yeah,
there was something wrong
you
with
were
my
not
phone.
yourself when it happened like you.
There was something wrong with my phone. There was no service on my phone, so I was afraid someone might have done a phone swap on me and tried to hack into my account. And that's exactly what happened to several people. Right? They did a SIM swap on the phone. If they have access to your phone and your email, they pretty much can hack it into anything. All right. So that's what I was afraid of. And actually, one of my friends in Coinbase account got hacked. He got a SIM card swapped. His email is hacked. His phone was hacked. So they hacked into his Coinbase. Boom! Within 10 minutes, all the crypto is gone. All right. So what these people do, and what I would do too, if I'm not buying or selling or trading, I would definitely take it out from the exchange, right, and put it either a cold storage, or I would put it in Kaboo.
Kaboo, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. I actually have a lot more Bitcoin in my Kaboo wallet than on Coinbase. The problem with Coinbase, and I tried to call them. That's the funny thing. I called Coinbase. I tried to put a temporary freeze on my account, just in case, until I figure out what's going on. And I emailed them too. When I called them, it was Saturday. They said, "Oh, you have to email or call back on the weekend."
Doing business hours.
Right. So with these large companies, you don't know who to talk to, right? But with Kaboo, you have someone. Also, Kaboo has a limit on how much you can withdraw, a daily withdrawal. We have a $500 daily limit, unless we verify that it is you. You called in, you want more, then we can increase that.
Yeah.
Right. But at least that gave you time. If something's wrong with your account, if you notice it, then there's time for you to stop it. Right? Because with crypto, once it's out of the exchange's hand, that's it. They cannot get it back.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing with Kaboo. We can't get it back if it is sent out. All right. But the good thing is we do have a lot of security measures in place, and we do have a limit on how much you can take out. Right.
So yeah, guys, if you guys have your Bitcoin on another exchange, if you're not trading with it, or if you have no intention of trading, then keep it in Kaboo. Kaboo is super safe. We have multi-layer security measures in place, so that's where I keep the bulk of my Bitcoin. I mean, I have a little bit on Coinbase, a little bit on Gemini, but the bulk of my Bitcoin is on Kaboo, because if something happened in Coinbase, if I lose the Bitcoin I have in Coinbase, will I feel bad? Will it hurt? Yeah, but it's not going to devastate me because the bulk of my Bitcoin is in Kaboo. So I feel very safe with Kaboo. So if you guys have your Bitcoin in other places, if you're not trading with it, keep it on Kaboo. It's a lot safer. What's your take, Mr. Wong?
I feel exactly the same way. Also, another, I think we did a training to our members by Ben a couple of weeks ago. You should really keep a separate email address dedicated for your financial related stuff, that you don't publish it, you don't use it for your regular communications, or just so keep a separate email, so that way it yeah, and of course a different password for all of your different logins, and also use a different login name as opposed to your email handle, right? So by doing those three things, it would also help minimize your risk of being hacked. But the most important thing is, if it's not there for them to steal, then they can't steal it, right? So cold storage is definitely one option. Um, but then you got to consider about the fees, right? That and what if you lose the USB or the cold storage wallet? That's another risk. So Kabul is a great choice. We have that daily withdrawal limit. So that is definitely an extra layer of protections that are designed to protect our members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So this is another signal of our bullishness on Bitcoin, and also you want to the article about the stock to supply model. James, if you can pull that up. Actually, we talked about this.
That's the Forbes article
right.
we're talking about. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was a few weeks ago. Actually, it was James who pointed out to us during our marketing meeting. James, you remember? I guess that's a yes. But
I do remember, yeah.
He's doing this thing in the background.
Right. Right. During a marketing meeting, you were talking about this article. You see, it's from Gershom, James. Yeah, you see, it's the stock to supply from Plan B. Right. We talked about this before, actually. Right. This is about this is from another angle. Right. This is total a statistical model of how this person, he calls himself. What does he call himself? What's his nickname? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember his nickname.
Is it Plan B, James?
Yes,
so
Plan B.
Yes. So Plan B. So that's his model on the saying about talking about exactly about the supply, right? About supply and demand, like you mentioned earlier, Jason.
What?
Yeah, this is about the supply and demand, right? The supply side talks about how the stock to supply model basically saying that what is the supply out there, right? And how long does it take? How long does it take for it to manufacture or to mine that much supply? Okay. So I think Bitcoin has a stock to supply number of around between 50 to 60. All right. I think gold is roughly about 60, right? About 60, 65, right? So what does that mean? And gold, of course, it's over $7 trillion market cap. Whereas Bitcoin right now is only below $200 billion in market cap, right? So if you put that in equivalent to how hard to mine Bitcoin for a full supply, right? Compare that to gold, right? Gold at 60 mid-60s, whereas Bitcoin's in the 50s, right? So it's roughly pretty close, right? But in terms of market cap, you're looking at a $200 billion market cap for Bitcoin, and you're looking at over $7 trillion in gold.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they have been looking at for a very long time, is when you compare the market cap that's Bitcoin and then you compare the market cap of gold. If you just even get 1% of the market cap in gold, if you just get that to go into Bitcoin, right, then the price is going to be through the roof. And so that's one of the things that they've been looking at, because we all know that, yes, whenever we have any kind of financial hiccups, people will run to gold. as a safe haven because that's what they know, that's what they're used to. But by and large, we will see a chunk of capital that would normally go into gold get diverted into Bitcoin. And that's going to be just crazy. Can you imagine if Bitcoin is a $1 trillion market cap? That would be insane, right? And it's not far-fetched for it to happen. And it could happen overnight.
Right.
So, yeah. It's something to keep our eye on.
That's why this model, this stock-to-flow model, is saying that most likely it's very possible to hit 100,000, the next high.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Hey, listen.
Send me my Bitcoins. Gershom, you're gonna send this out after this podcast.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Send me $25 for Bitcoin.
We are going to see $100,000 Bitcoin by the end of next year, and that's being conservative.
I don't know about end of next year. By the next half, maybe. I don't know, but I hope it will by the end of next year.
That would be awesome, man.
But that's where these numbers are coming from, right? That's where these analysts, these entrepreneurs, these investors, right? All these numbers are flowing around 50,000 to 100,000, or even to 1 million in the next 5 years. So all these are models and things that are happening. Right, not just based on statistics, not just based on charts and models, based on what's going on, right? What people are doing, how people are reacting to Bitcoin, all right? And we even talk about, for example, now, just another article about PayPal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
In a little bit. But that's an interesting thing, with PayPal and not only PayPal, but Venmo. PayPal and Venmo is looking into adding Bitcoin to their platform to where you can actually buy Bitcoin through their platform. That is huge.
Right.
That's a big deal, guys. That is a big deal. And it just shows you that Bitcoin is definitely going mainstream. And this has been talked about for years. The idea of once Bitcoin start to creep into the mainstream, then the price of Bitcoin it's hard to even quantify what the price of Bitcoin could be. That's why when someone say Bitcoin could be $100,000 by the end of next year, it may sound a little far-fetched, but is it really? I mean, really, it's not. So we'll see.
All right,
we'll see.
So just a quick numbers for you guys. There are estimated over 40 million users on Venmos, right? So if Venmo does, which is owned by PayPal, right? The company, if they do go ahead and add that into their app, that's instantly another 40 million, wallets that are out there, right? But here's another thing. For PayPal, there are estimated 305 million users.
Wow. 305 million.
Correct. So think about the impact.
Yeah.
Think about the impact, and we're gonna instantly have another deeper dive, a deeper reach into these the rest of the world population.
Yeah, I hope you guys are strapped in and ready for this ride. Most of our members weren't really involved in Bitcoin in 2017. So a lot of our members really have never experienced a true Bitcoin bull run. We've seen some up and down, and like for example, when the last crash and like 3,000 something, and we creep back up to like 14,000. But most of our members haven't really experienced a really true bull run. Where Bitcoin is going up by sometime $1,000, $1,500 a day, every day. every day. So,
I'm looking forward to it, and I want to tell you, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting run.
Yeah, it was just and this time around it's going to be different. It's going to be magnitude of like 100, because there weren't that many people that was involved back then. Just a few, not a few, but not as much as now. And and back then a lot of mainstream media outlets weren't really too warmed up to Bitcoin. But can you imagine the next time around? It's going to be crazy.
Right. Can you imagine? Yeah, with PayPal, if this thing is going on, if Bitcoin's going up like 1,000 a day, and everybody's talking about Bitcoin, and then PayPal make it so easy for anybody to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Before it wasn't. Before it's tough. Before you got to do Coinbase. Even Coinbase was so tough just to sign up. And
Absolutely.
Then you got to wait some time and then fund it, and then you can buy some Bitcoin. Right now with PayPal, it's going to be available with over 300 million active users. Right, PayPal.
That's right.
Over 300 million active users. I just imagine that the news are coming out. People start talking about Bitcoin, and the price are going up. You had 300 million people. They can just grab some Bitcoin.
And then 40 million on Venmo.
Right.
And not to mention how many is on Cash App, and how many is using Square.
Well, Square is already in the game, right? They're already allowing people that, one thing that they don't allow you to do is, use your credit card to buy it, but they're already allowing you, if you have linked up your checking account or savings account with your Cash App, you can buy that at a small, increments if you want. But think about this. The reason why PayPal is such a big deal, if they do come into the space, and Venmo, is this. All and most of their accounts holders are already linked to their checking accounts, right? So it makes it so easy, like Jen was saying, to start buying and holding, accumulating Bitcoins. And I do agree with you, Jim. When I first started buying, Bitcoin through Coinbase, their app, they make you jump through hoops. It's crazy.
They do.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's because like I just have a little bit more of a credit history than my wife. They make my wife send in all sorts of documentations for the KYC.
Yeah.
And the money is not available until a week later. You send it to them, they get to use it for a week. Then after that, you can use it.
Hey,
that's crazy. And they still have 40 million users. All right.
Exactly.
They're doing a horrible job, but they have 40 million users.
40 million compared to 300 million.
Yeah.
Right. The account's already set up. I mean, for PayPal, those users they're ready.
They're ready to go.
Accounts are
That's right.
Yeah. They're ready to go. That it's going to be amazing. And so up until a couple years ago, Coinbase was like the go-to place as the on-ramp into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. But now there's so many others, and not only are there others, but the others makes it so much easier than Coinbase. So it's like, when I think about it, everything is lining up for this next bull run. Everything is lining up. It's like all the stars are lining up just right for this next excitement that's coming up. Even with the halving, and I've said it to you guys before, it's just amazing how this thing was programmed to where this halving that just happened happened right in the midst of a tremendous amount of publicity about Bitcoin, right in the midst of mainstream adoption, and right when the popularity is increasing, boom, we cut the supply in half. Like, that's just a brilliant supply and demand type scenario. And you think, how did Satoshi Nakamoto know this? Like, and then the next half in the next 4 years. So this thing, Bitcoin, man, it's really a game changer, and more people need to understand that. So we're gonna do things a little bit different in this live stream. So normally we would play you guys a video at the end of the live stream, but today we're gonna kind of do it in the middle, and then we have a few more articles to talk about. This video that we're going to play for you guys right now, it's not Bitcoin specific, but it does have a Bitcoin reference. But I was watching this. It's an interview. It's a portion of an interview between Robert Kiyosaki and a guy named George Gammon. And I listened to both of them. I subscribed to both of their podcasts, and they were having an interview. And this is like a 10 or 12 minute clip. I think it's 10-minute clip from the interview. But they're talking about just the overall macroeconomic condition that's going on right now, and some of the things that we should be thinking about how to position ourselves, during this uncertain time. Because, guys, let's not let our guard down and get too relaxed. We're still in a financial crisis, right? There's a reason why the government is still talking about another phase of stimulus. There was a reason why the Jerome Powell was in Congress last week giving a testimony. We're not out of the woods yet. And so there's a lot more to come, in terms of this crisis, especially in the tail end of it. So I thought this was a very comprehensive conversation between these two gentlemen, just talking about the overall picture of what's going on and some things to expect. So I hope you guys really enjoy this interview. Whenever you're ready, James.
And that's why this is probably the most important program. See, most people just watch the stock market. Yeah. That's all they watch. They don't know much about home prices in their neighborhood. And that's not good enough. So our guest today is George Gammon. He takes the ultra complex and puts it in pictures. Even if you don't understand them at first, just keep tracking with them. Because you're going to see what 99.99% of the world's population will never see.
What are you seeing in the future, George?
What I want to stress, and I'll explain this just momentarily, but what I really want to stress to the viewer is that if you're able to just start to understand the macroeconomic picture, and it doesn't need to be complex. Listen, the reason you think it's complex is because all these economists and academics, they use all this jargon and technical terms. But if you just break it down into simple English, it's actually very easy for people to understand. And if they understand it, they're going to be able to make much better decisions for themselves and their family in the future for their finances. So whether it's me or anyone else, make sure that you're trying to really pay attention to what's going on. Let's just say that you've been saving your money, you've been working hard, you've been doing all the right things, you've got a little nest egg saved up, and you go to the bank and you're like, oh my gosh, they're only giving me 0.5 interest or 0 or who knows what it is. You can't even see the interest rates, they're so small nowadays. So you say, okay, where can I go to get a little bit higher rate of return? But I still want to be safe. It's got to be safe. So then you might look at a product like a money market mutual fund or a money market fund. And then you look at this, you say, well, that's safe. All my buddies are doing it. It's just like a bank account, but I get maybe a 1.5% return. Well, what the average person doesn't realize is they're taking exponentially more risk just to get that 1% additional return. So how is that? Because the way that the money market mutual fund gets the additional return is they take your hard-earned savings and money and they put it into the repo market, or they put it into the commercial paper market, which is basically funding for corporations, the same type of thing. So the question then becomes that person that's just watching Monday Night Football and just enjoying life, just, with the white picket fence, the 2 kids, the golden retriever, they don't care about what's going on with the plumbing. They don't care about the dollar swaps. But does that person really want to lend their hard-earned savings to Deutsche Bank, to HSBC, some of these banks that could be crumbling as we speak, or to put things into other terms like more America-centric corporate terms? Would that individual want their money being lent to American Airlines right now, or Boeing right now, where every single time you turn on CNBC or the TV, you see that they're asking for another bailout because they're about to go bust? That's how this macro, and that's how the cash flow and the plumbing that Robert's talking about, that's how, just one way that it can affect the everyday person.
So if our banks are going bust right now, What does that mean?
It's not just the banks, it's the government, it's the private sector, it's our entire economy, because these debt cycles run in courses of 75 to 100 years. I'm going back to Ray Dalio. Right now, we're at the top of a 75 to 100 year long-term debt cycle. So the only way from here is down. And Robert, you call this in a lot of your books, and you kind of predicted this and had the foresight to see this coming. But when you get to the top of one of these debt cycles, the only thing the government can do, well, there's 4 ways out of it. Number one, they can choose austerity, which very few governments do, and that's just tightening the belt, spending less. Everyone feels the pain. Think of the deflation or depression we had in the 1930s. Or they restructure the debt. Well, it's not likely we're going to do that with China. It's not likely we're going to do that with the big banks because they're the creditors. Or they could just default, say, hey, we're not paying you. Or what most governments do is they choose money printing. This is creating inflation to bail out all the people who have the debt, whether it's governments, whether it's individuals. So once you get debt to a certain level, you've got to, well, you don't have to, but most governments choose to inflate it away. So what does that mean for the average person? Well, if the government is going to try to create inflation, meaning the cost of goods and services going up, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're positioned for that. So as an example, if you just own your own home, you've got to make sure that you've got a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, because if they try to create inflation, if interest rates go up, then your interest rate is going to go up unless it's fixed. And what happens when you're a debtor and they create inflation, you're going to have the opportunity to pay the loan back, your mortgage, with cheaper devalued dollars. So the way they can think about that is if they borrow, let's say $100,000, the rate of interest means that they're paying the bank back with increased purchasing power because you've got principal plus interest. So what happens in inflation, though, is inflation allows the borrower to pay the debt back with less purchasing power. So if your rate of interest, let's say, is 1% or 3%, we'll call it, but if inflation goes up to 5-6%, the delta between those two is a transfer of purchasing power from the bank to the individual homeowner. And I think a lot of people listening to this probably have a mortgage, if not on a rental property, on their own home. And I think that's the very first thing they can do to be proactive. Also, gold, silver, Bitcoin, you talk about that all the time.
We're sitting on this coronavirus, which is changing everything. What is your crystal ball? What are you seeing? Not your crystal ball because you're studying it and you're seeing all the charts and the numbers. What are we looking at? From
an economic standpoint, I think the biggest question is, do we have deflation or inflation? And that's kind of the debate going back and forth. And for the average person, I think they just have to look at the entire economy as supply and demand. So the supply is how much stuff do we produce? How much goods and services. Demand is how much money we have, or our willingness or our access to credit to go out and buy the stuff. So as most people know, we're in lockdown, depending on what state you live in, what city. So there's a lot less demand. There's a lot less of the goods and services that are actually being purchased, right? So that decreases the demand equation. That's what most people get fixated on. So they think, okay, well, we have to have prices going down, deflation. But they forget about the supply side of the equation, because if the people can't go out to produce goods and services, well, the supply will go down fast as well. So then the question becomes, what's going down faster, demand or supply? Well, then you look at the supply chains that have been disrupted coming into the United States. If you go to Walmart, Target, Home Depot, the majority of the stuff you see on the shelves was produced outside of the United States. So if those supply chains get disrupted, that means less supply. Then what happens is, usually, going back to Dalio's example of long-term debt cycles, you get social unrest. And I hate to say that, but that's just the reality of the situation if you look at history. And typically the way the politicians take care of social unrest is through helicopter money. So whether you want to call it MMT, UBI, it doesn't matter. It's basically the government spending money into the real economy, getting into the back pockets of the average Joe and Jane. We could see a situation in the future where the Fed is actually doing it. They're not technically allowed to do it right now, but they've been breaking all of the rules. So if there's more money in the pocket of the average person, that means there's more demand, even though they're sitting at home not going to work, for those goods and services in the economy that don't require debt. That's key, Kim, because people see deflation and inflation as just this, it's binary, right? It's either one or the other, but it's actually very nuanced. So if there's less debt in the system, that means asset prices could go down, or cars, anything that most people buy using debt, okay, the prices of those go down, but anything people buy, or most goods and services people buy on a daily basis that don't require debt, such as groceries, those prices typically go up. And if I saw on CNBC the other day that in a lot of markets around the United States, food prices are up as high as 25%.
It's already started.
So you can see this happening in real life.
Yeah, what's happening is because of the COVID or whatever they call it, the meat packing companies are shutting down.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And so there's now shortages of meat. But
so a great example of supply decreasing faster than demand.
But what's happening is and the Fed is pumping trillions, 2.2 trillion into the economy. So you have a decreasing supply, increased liquidity, and that's why the shelves are empty for pork and beef and all those things. And Arab Spring, which I don't forget when that happened, but the real rioting wasn't about Muslimism or Christians and all this. Arab Spring was because the mom and pop couldn't afford to go to the store.
Food
prices went so high. And I think that's what you're saying, is when people get hungry or they can't afford food, that's when the social situation gets worse. In other words, the question, if you're
Okay.
All right, guys. I really hope you guys were listening to what they talking about. Okay.
Yeah, you just moved that.
No, it's not this. It's not this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Jason. Oh, okay, I was in an echo. It should be good now. Okay, guys. So yeah, I really hope you guys were listening to what they were talking about, and there's some heavy stuff in there, and I don't want us, and when I say us, I'm talking about collectively, I don't want us to relax and put our guards down. There's a lot of stuff going on out there, guys, and our economy we got some problems, and all this money printing, they didn't just get up one day and say, hey, let's print some money. The reason why they're doing it is because we have serious problems. And I know that a lot of it is blamed on coronavirus, and maybe rightfully so. But I know that we've been talking about this before coronavirus came out, that we have some serious economic problems. And all this money printing, we talk about this all the time, there will be a consequence for it. And that's some of the things that they're talking about. We will see inflation. We will see price increase, everyday goods like food. That's going to happen. And so, even though we open things back up, we're trying to get back out there in the economy and get back to work and so forth. Don't get comfortable. There's a lot that's left to be done. Yes. And also the consequences for what we've been doing, haven't arrived yet. So I just thought that this interview, hit on some points that I hope that would, you guys would find interesting, and maybe take away some things from this particular interview. And, most importantly, one of the things is that, hey, look, right now is a time when you want to get into gold, silver, and Bitcoin, right? They're never, ever going to forget about gold and silver, because that's been around for thousands of years. We get it. But now they're realizing that you can't just do gold and silver. You have to. It's a must. You have to also have Bitcoin in your portfolio. And, thankfully enough, we're all right here, members, we're all Bitcoin miners. But it's important for us to understand that right now what's going on, we have to make sure that we are aware of what's going on, keep our eyes open, do not get relaxed. There's a lot of stuff that lets to become, and a lot of people will be hurt from the fallout of this.
Right. The problem is, I think it's, if you look at the stock market, it does look like going back to normal already. All right. The stock market has recovered almost all the loss. Right. You wouldn't think that we are having some type of issue, and which we do. We have a huge problem. This pandemic is still alive and it's still very much kicking. And another problem is a lot of people seem to be going back to normal already. Right? You go out there in the restaurants and bars, people are very close together. Right? They're not wearing masks. They're very tight together. And other states, you see, they totally ignore the mask situation. Right? In Las Vegas, you see videos of people in the pool partying, drinking, thinking it's totally normal, which is, guys, is still not the numbers. The numbers of new cases are still going up. Right? So still, guys, practice safety, wearing masks. I mean, Gershon and I, we've been seeing each other for the last, since the pandemic. Okay, so he has issues, we've been having issues. So,
and this is all we do. We go home, we come here. We go home, we come here. That's it.
Okay. So this and what in the interview, yes, there's several things that you should get into. Right. First, if you don't have a home, you rented. Yes, you should have a house. Having your own real estate, your own home. Right. Financially, it makes lots of sense. When inflation goes up, real estate price has to go up because inflation, it's going to go up. Also, interest rate are so low. Interest rate is low. That's why that is what is propping up the real estate price. Right? But either way, you need a place to live. Also, he's like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Right? I'm not too sure about gold and silver. I'm not. But Bitcoin, definitely.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
What are some of the things that you took away from that little chat, Mr. Wong?
People really to wake up and this one woman trying to watch that. Actually, the way I look at it is like if I.
You're breaking up.
Jason, you're breaking up.
Can you guys hear me?
No, we can hear you, but you're going in and out.
Is it, how about now? Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
All
I think we lost you again.
Yeah. Forget it, Jason. It's the reception.
They make it so complicated. It's almost like. When a dollar is worth $1, right? I can go out there and let's say I can buy a hamburger for $1, but the dollar that 3 months or next year from now is only worth 50 cents. I need $2 to buy a hamburger. These are the money tricks that a lot of the governments uses to kind of like wash down its debt. So that's one thing that I took away from the interview, which makes a lot of sense. So we are definitely not out of the wood yet. We have to be careful and don't let this, I hate to use the term fake news, but the stock market right now is performing phenomenally well out of the norm. Don't let that fool you, because we are certainly gonna be facing the second phase of this COVID-19. Many countries are already facing it and starting to face it. We will also face it as well over here in the United States. So be careful, guys. This is coming, and I would certainly reallocate my assets and put some of those extra funds that you can afford to lose into Bitcoins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we always need to remember that the stock market is not the economy. And I think a lot of times we tend to make that mistake. We see the stock market going up and we think the economy is great. And that's not the case, guys. you could easily see the stock market hitting record highs and see high unemployment. So, you know, the stock market is not the economy, and a lot of people get misled by that. Unfortunately, guys, in interest of time, you know, we're going to have to make that video the last article or topic that we talk about. The other articles that we had in queue, we'll save those for Friday. We talk about those because we're trying to keep these live stream about an hour, maybe a little bit under an hour, and we've been on here now for an hour, so we're not going to get into the other articles. So we'll wrap it up here. You know, it was I think we had a really great discussion today. I really hope that our guys, you know, our members, got a lot out of it. Any last words for the folks, Mr. Gao?
No, that's it. You know, stay safe. Keep practicing the mask and the social distancing. Right, keep this COVID-19 down.
Yeah.
Same here. Stay safe. Stay safe. All right, and check out our company's website, vpmining.com.
Yes. All right, guys. And for our members, don't forget we have our webinar tonight at 9 p.m. We'll talk about a compensation package. With that being said, guys, have a wonderful evening, the rest of it. And, you know, I see some of you guys tonight. And the rest of you will see you guys tomorrow for training 7:30. And then our other live stream on Friday at 5:30, okay?
All right, have a good night.
Have a nice evening, guys. You guys